welcome to another edition of the Man Cave, where we give our opinions from a man's point of view on everything. Before we get into this hot topic and before we introduce our guests, we got to introduce our panel to the peoples out there. First is Brother Brad, bad Leroy Brown on the block. You better not step on his grass. Next is Papa Joe Jackson, Damon Randall with too many kids to handle. Then we got Brother Art, quick on the lip, 17 in the clip. And then we got Clinton, the slap happy grandpappy. So
slap happy.
Grandpappy. I want to introduce everybody to my good friend James Williams and everybody out there. James Williams is a retired policeman in Pennsylvania. And so this is the Popo Show. And we are conveying information about how us as Black people should conduct ourselves when being stopped by the police. Also, we want to talk about the tricks of the trade in policing and what they do to us to garner responses, try to get us to talk, try to get us tripped up, all of that stuff. James has a wealth of information, but let me start by giving a brief little history about background about James. West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where he spent most of his days, so he, he down there, he's down with the Fresh Prince. He's born and raised.
We don't want Will Smith on the show.
I'm just saying that's where he's from. Is it West Philly or North Philly?
West Philly. Well, I grew up in North Philly and then I moved to West Philly.
Okay, I kind of knew it was both of them. And then straight out of high school, he went to into the Army, and then he joined the police force out there in 1990, and spent 16 years in narcotics and in internal affairs. So he knows about policing the police, So I just thought this brother, and we ought to give him a great sense of gratitude because he had some plans that he put aside to be with us. He just got back from driving his motorcycle to Utah and back for fun. So got some outstanding pictures. Maybe we'll get into that later. So James, start off by, when we were talking the other day, we were talking about being pulled over by the police and what the policeman is walking up thinking versus what you're thinking in the car. So can you start off by saying, talking to us about what the police are trying to do when they walk up?
All right, so he already thinks you've done something wrong, right? I mean, regardless, whether he thinks your car it fits the description, whether he thinks you fit the description, whether he thinks you've done a traffic violation, he's walking up thinking that you are wrong, right? You're thinking either, yeah, damn, he probably got me for speeding. I knew I was speeding. Or you're thinking, I haven't done anything wrong. It's one of those two things, Now, maybe you can change his mind, or maybe he can change your mind. Maybe you're thinking, well, I'm gonna tell him I didn't do anything wrong. Or maybe he's thinking, well, I'm gonna show him or her what they did wrong. But for the most part, you both are thinking that you're right. You're thinking, I didn't do anything wrong, and he's thinking you did do something wrong. Right? Those are indisputable facts.
Right.
Now, this kind of leads into two myths I want to point out about car stops. One myth is that a bad stop, meaning you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have to cooperate.
So wait, in other words, you shouldn't think you shouldn't cooperate because you feel like you did nothing wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the worst. It's the worst thing you, go ahead, sir. Mr. Hall.
I can call me Clint, James. Yeah. to get to that point, there must be a conversation first. Is that correct?
Okay, that's actually myth number 2.
Mm.
Myth number 2 is it's widely believed throughout this country that the officer has to tell you what you did wrong before you hand him your paperwork.
Mm.
That is a myth.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, sir?
It's widely believed by many that the officer has to tell you what you did wrong before you hand him your paperwork.
Okay,
Mm.
thank you.
That is a myth. It's
Mhm.
and it you how can I put this? Now, I'm in no way, nothing I say here today is for the purpose of justifying what they do.
Mhm.
This is for the purpose of you not digging a deeper hole for yourself.
Got you.
Got
You
it.
know what I mean? Now, within the last 5 years, departments have instituted procedures where the officer now has to say, hi, I'm Officer so-and-so from badge number such and such from so-and-so police department. The reason I've stopped you is because you ran a red light back at the intersection of such and such.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conversation I was trying to get to.
Cool question. Is that every department? Or does it go by city, state by state?
No, it goes by department by department.
Wow.
Okay.
There is there is no, and that's only, so you got three, I'm gonna use the word laws, but they're not laws, but 3 guiding principles. You got federal law, well, 4 actually. You got federal law, you got state law, and you have city law and departmental rules and procedures,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is no federal, state, or city law that says an officer has to tell you what you did wrong. Get this, you ready for this?
Mm.
Before writing your ticket.
Wow.
Bullshit.
It's
So-
bullshit.
So what
But-
you can ask though, right?
You can ask, but what you can't do, and here's my point, because you can ask and he may tell you. You can ask and he may say, we'll get to that in a minute. But my point is, you have no right to refuse to hand over your paperwork prior to him telling you.
Mm.
And and that is written on your driver's license, the paper attached to your license is
Mhm.
written on your registration, and it's written on your insurance card. Must be produced when stopped by law enforcement.
Mm.
Okay.
So
So I give him what he want, what
mhm,
he asked for. Okay,
Mhm.
I give him what he asked for. I still don't know why I'm pulled over. You're
okay,
saying he ain't got to tell me nothing until he write me a ticket.
he doesn't.
So which
But-
means that if the truth of the matter is I did nothing wrong, now at his discretion, I'm stuck having to either pay the ticket or go to court and fight the ticket.
Yes, but let me ask you this. Even if he did tell you what you did wrong, now I'm just going by the law. I'm not trying to justify him
Yeah.
not telling you.
You good?
But-
You good?
Even if he does tell you what you did wrong and you argue it and he doesn't change his mind, you're still at the behest of either receiving a ticket or taking it to court, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
We would like I didn't mean to cut somebody off. We would like the opportunity to have that conversation right then and there with the officer to possibly persuade him otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, you're still at the behest of the ticket or the court.
Right.
So they don't work for us. We work for them.
We serve them.
I mean, we don't work for them, but there are laws that work against us. And one of them is you have to hand over your paperwork regardless of how you feel about him stopping you.
Yeah, that sounds like I work for you. Because if I ain't got no say so in the matter, And I can understand why I wouldn't have any say so. But then I'm just looking further down the road because to me, it just seems like, let's say the cop, he don't like brown skin.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled me over because I got brown skin.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go, officer, take my stuff. Why'd you pull me over? Well, we'll get that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He go back there, he spent 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out what he gonna get me on, because I ain't did nothing wrong. Come back with some ticket that's out of line. You see, so it's like I'm totally at the behest. It's like, okay, now I gotta sit here and wait for him to bring me a bill. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. It's a bit. Hold on, I lost my my thing because my program came up. Okay. So it just kind of seemed like, that I work for him, or I
Okay.
work for the city, because the
So-
city getting the money, and then what they're gonna do, they're gonna take the money, they're gonna buy more stuff for the cops, not necessarily for the roads or for the schools, or for the people in the community. So it seems to me that it didn't switch from protect and serve, and then went to
Something else.
harass and embezzle.
So let me ask you a question. The scenario that you just painted is only missing one thing.
Mhm.
It's missing a conversation, right? I mean, let's look at the step by step. He stopped you. He asked you for your paperwork.
Right.
He didn't tell you, he refused to have the conversation with you. Now he
Right.
goes back to his car and he writes the ticket.
Right.
It's missing the conversation. So I guess that what I'm trying to figure out is, if a cop is going to write a ticket, how important is that conversation if he's already going to write you a ticket?
Okay, now that's what I was talking about when I said there need to be a conversation. But I think what we did, what Art brought up, where do we draw the line, or where does our First Amendment rights begin to kick in versus what the law enforcement is just dictating? Because there are some rights that we have, I believe. I'm not saying that we can refuse, the tickets and like that. I'm just saying, as citizens, there are certain benefits or rights that I'm believing that we should have. So where does some of that get in the conversation? That's why I'm trying to get to the conversation.
Okay.
If you can speak.
So circling back around, very rarely I don't want to, because the truth is, once you hand over your paperwork to an officer, I honestly don't know of any situations with my coworkers or my ex-coworkers where they refuse to tell a person why they were stopped, right? I mean, those situations are actually kind of rare. So now getting to Clinton's question, where your rights come in at, and me and Aaron talked about answering questions to the officer, right? So you have those who believe, I don't answer questions. I won't answer any questions he have. I won't answer any questions he give me. And when Ms. Clinton, when you talk about your rights, that is a right that you have. You absolutely have the right to not answer questions, because, and I was talking to Aaron, and I'm gonna tell you where the questions originate from. You have what's called drug corridors. Now, not that your city is in any of them, but let's talk about Arizona, all of the border states.
Detroit ain't got no drug areas.
Okay, so you have
the whole area. Ain't no areas. It's just
so
there.
There was a system put in place called drug interdiction. Drug interdiction is the process by which officers fight drugs. And that entails a whole bunch of different steps. But one of the steps that it entails was training officers on methods to question potential suspects, right? And these were called interdiction questions. And what they were designed for was to trip you up, to get you to change your answer, to get you to change your story, ask you several times, so where are you coming from? And then change it up by saying, okay, so earlier you said you were coming from, when you know that's not actually what you said. But then you go along with it and you say, yeah. Oh, and wait, is that a change from your earlier story? So a small, if this country has, I'll make up a number. If this country has 20,000 police officers, 500 of that 20,000, a very small number, was trained in this drug interdiction method, right? But officers watched TV, they heard about this training, they talked to other cops, they were trained by older cops and other cops. So now every officer thinks that they are an interviewer, right? And every officer thinks they're going to solve the Hindenburg kidnapping by asking, some brother on the street a bunch of questions.
Some they're trying to figure out who shot Kennedy. I don't know what they be trying to do.
Exactly. So yes, you have the right to not answer questions. But I want to propose to you another side of the officer that's trying to solve who shot Kennedy. And I want to propose to you that there is some people with just an inquisitive nature. You come across somebody all the time and you say, wow, this cat is kind of interesting. So you want to, hey, tell me more about yourself. Tell me more about you. Well, there are some cops out here who are just inquisitive. And so I'm making listen. No, I'm saying this to get to a certain point. I'm saying this to get to a point.
Okay.
It's the equivalent of no cop going to walk up to your car and say, hey, tell me about yourself. They're just not going to do that. Right? But it's sometimes natural for a person or a cop to say, so where are you coming from? And the only reason I'm introducing that right now is the I don't answer questions people sometimes create their own red flags.
Right, I get that.
That's my only point in saying it, is sometimes you kind of bring attention to yourself, right?
Right.
So,
but let me ask you this. So when the cop comes walking up, obviously there's some preconceived thought whereby he stops you, and if he's inquisitive, as you just said, which then takes the bias or the objectivity out of his integrity for stopping you in the first place, not because you necessarily did something wrong, but we got these other factors involved now.
Okay.
So that's why that's why I'm saying the conversation when he gets to your door. What do our young men? How do they need to respond? What's going on with them? Because here's the point: we live in the real world. This person, this officer, we ain't talking about people now. We talking about this officer. Obviously has an objective for approaching you, and it ain't just because you may have did something wrong, possibly.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say you let him lead the questioning. Two things you can ask. Why'd you stop me? Let him answer that question any way he wants to answer it. If he doesn't answer the question, you're really not going to convince him to answer it at that point, right?
Right.
If he says, I'll answer the questions, I'll ask the questions here. Okay. Let him ask the questions.
I'm ready to jump now. You want to talk smart? I'm ready to jump on him. Like, what you mean?
No, you're ready to take your ticket and just go on and go to the next step, because it ain't gonna be no convincing him. Otherwise, it's a confrontation now.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying, it's like you really have nothing other than to do, from what I'm hearing from you now. Okay, and I know we're gonna go further with this.
Mhm.
But initially, what I'm hearing from you is just go along and be cool, so don't nothing else happen to you, right? But if we do have a certain right, a certain First Amendment right, okay, whatever amendment it may be, I got to go back and look at it or whatnot, okay. But if I got the right not to answer any questions, and I choose not to, that shouldn't cause the situation to escalate
Thank
because
you.
I'm asserting my rights. But we
Mhm.
see the officers get irritated and upset because, well, now they're asserting their rights. So they start calling you names. Okay, well, are you supposed to be a sovereign citizen? Are you all this other type of stuff? This is the kind of thing they want to say to you. And you're really kind of in a bad position because you got the right to do certain things, but those rights don't carry over to the police officer half the time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, he wants to forego those because, like you said, Mr. Hall, he may have some preconceived notion, or he might be thinking he's gonna be super cop, and I'm gonna question this guy down and find out he's bringing drugs in from Colombia, and I'm gonna be I'm gonna be the baddest cop in the world. I mean, this is how to me, this is how they behave a little bit.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about some of the Mr. Bradley.
On what he was saying. So after all that being said, so if the officer gets frustrated, say, okay, step out the car. What are the options then?
You have to step out the
But
car.
I don't want to get out.
That's how I feel, but
I don't, because as soon as I get out, now my level of safety has basically disappeared.
Mhm.
I get
I'm
that
no
as well.
longer safe because he got a weapon and he got at least 3 clips on him. At least 3 clips, full too. Okay.
Mhm.
And he got a taser. Okay. And about time he get me out the car, is 4 other guys already on the scene.
Mhm.
So
So let
I
me
don't
ask you,
want to get out.
right. So let me ask you a question, because you have to get out.
That
That's the law.
sucks.
Right,
See,
that's what I thought.
see?
You have to get out. But let me ask you a question. Like I
Okay.
get
Why do we have to get out? Why do you have to get out? Because don't there have to be something like probable cause for that to get to that point?
you really think they can't articulate that? Like
Yeah, they can fabricate it.
they can, right. So like listen, there is very little you can do. Okay, so the articulation that would be, well, his furtive movements and nervous actions made me feel uncomfortable, and
That-
for my safety, I wanted him to get out the car. So, but let me ask you a question.
That's weird. That's weird. For his safety, you want me out of the car next to you.
Mhm.
If I'm in the car,
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird, but you're not gonna win there.
right?
Right.
You know what I
wanna
mean? You're not gonna not get out the car. So let's rewind this a little bit.
Okay, James.
And like, how can you're dealing with a scared individual, for one.
Mm.
Let's
Yeah.
let's be realistic.
Cut to the
Okay.
chase.
That's
And
real.
Which one? Who are you identifying as scared?
The
The
cop,
officer?
The cop.
the officer,
Yeah, the cop.
the officer. Now
Yeah.
let's add some other parameters to it. Let's say it's at night. Let's say you have slightly tinted windows.
And let's say it's in Mississippi.
Let,
What you say?
so let me and I hate to say this because of the ridicule that it brings when I say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Keep it real now. We letting it all hang out.
Mhm. You dealing with a scared individual. Probably ain't dealt with too many black folk in all their lives,
Absolutely.
right? Is literally scared of you because of the color of your skin.
I disagree.
You want to live through this, right?
Right.
So and I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. Wouldn't we want to do whatever we could do to assuage and calm and de-escalate this situation?
Yes.
Yes.
James, I had that incident that you described happened to me.
Mhm.
Now, I drive for a living, so I was in Birmingham, Michigan, which is very influential in Michigan. 4 o'clock in the morning, I was there for a 5:30 pickup. Black car, black tinted windows, black guy. Cop pulled me over for my tinted windows because they're illegal in Michigan to a certain extent. So when he pulled me over, all my windows were already all down. And he came up as a young white guy. He could have been no more older than 25. When he asked me for my ID, he was talking to me, but his voice was shaking.
Mm.
So I told him, I said, hey, calm down. It's fine. Just tell me what you want, and I'll give it to you. So I said, take a deep breath. So he took a couple of seconds. He said, can I have your license? It's not a problem. It's in my pocket. I'm going to reach for it. And his hands were literally shaking when I handed him my stuff. Now, my thought process is, bro, you're not going to make it. Because there's some cats out there, doesn't matter if they're white or black, will eat you up. Or you end up panicking and killing somebody. So I get it. I have friends of mine
just don't pull nobody over at 4 o'clock in the morning if you can't handle it.
That's his job. That's his job, though.
That's his job.
But it's just like, if you too scared to do it, then just I'm gonna let him go where he going. I ain't gonna worry about him.
I don't think a lot of it though. All of it ain't fear, man. All of it ain't fear. It's a lot of cops that just have true hatred.
Well, yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and say. I know the example was fear, and that is true. A lot of these cops have issues or hatred for the other race, or anything could be going on in their mind. So if you dealing with that type, because really you can't tell if they could be shaking because they mad. You can't really tell. They could be shaking because they're around. You know what I'm saying? It could be something that triggered them. Because no, in my opinion, I have no hatred for police officers. I got family that's police officers. I got like 2 or 3 god brothers that's police. It's not the hatred of the police officers. I think it's the protocol that I have a problem with. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not able to ask what I've done, and I know I haven't done anything wrong, yet I still can get a ticket. Art brought it up perfect. You spending all types of money for the congressmen to get their pockets fat because they ain't doing nothing for the city. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. Mm-hmm. So we in a lose-lose. So how do you handle that situation? Because you see certain instances where protocol was followed and they still was shot, or there's something still happened. Mm-hmm. How do you I brought this up to the fellas, how do you handle being in a situation like that? Because to me, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, right. And James, before you answer that question, I wanted you to answer for the brothers what you told me. You said your average cop is a
punk bitch.
I don't see him, Aaron.
Huh?
I curse.
Oh, there he is.
Scared?
I can hear you. Did you hear my question?
The average cop.
Remember you said the other night, your average cop is a.
Say it, Aaron.
Well, he said the average cop is a a-hole.
Oh, is an asshole.
Oh, I could have been said that.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, if you have your average cop being an a-hole coming up to a car with a black person in it, he's just gonna be himself. So that's what I wanted to add that on top of Damon's questions on how do you defend against an a-hole cop who just is gonna have a preconceived notion of you just because you're a black man and driving.
Mm-hmm. You know what? When I look at cases like Philando Castile,
yeah,
who did everything right and by the book.
Yep.
in a state where you're required to tell the officer that you have a permit to carry and that you're armed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people say, well, he should have just kept his mouth shut, but you're in a state where you're required to disclose that information,
Mm-hmm.
right? He
Right.
did everything right and he's dead from it,
Right.
you know? So
That's crazy.
there
Now,
are some lose-lose situations out there. Absolutely.
well, yeah, hello, because most of them are black. So, so here's the research that I found. Of course, okay, so let me just insert this little research here from the Los Angeles Times. Los Angeles Times did a story. I think it was this year. What is this? 2006, July 16th, just a couple of days ago, 2021. And the headline says police officers treat black and white men differently. You can hear it in their tone, the tone of their voice. And one of the key things, paragraphs, there's 2 paragraphs in here that I want to just kind of emphasize. It says a 2019 paper, for example, found that black men were 2.5 times more likely than white men to be killed by the police. Additional investigations around the U.S. have found that black residents suffer a disproportionate share of use of force incidents relative to the share of population. Now, here's another key one right here. They had some scientists analyze some audio clips. It said the scientists analyzed hundreds of audio clips, each roughly 10 seconds long, from routine traffic stops of black or white men. The researchers filtered out high frequencies of sound clips, which essentially rendered the clips unintelligible, but left the tone of voice intact. They also masked the driver's voices with brown noise, so that anyone hearing the clip would not be able to guess the motor's race. The researchers then asked 400 people, a diverse group of white, Latino, Asian, and black volunteers, to listen to the clips and rate the officer's tone of voice. Across the board, clips of officers speaking to black men got lower marks for friendliness, respectfulness, and ease than those of officers speaking to white men, even though the listeners were not aware of the driver's race. And that speaks to the attitude of police that they already have before even pulling you over.
Didn't need a study to know that.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
but it's
Oh,
documented.
thank you.
It's documented. So let me just do this little thing, share my screen here and show you these charts really quickly.
Give me that link, Aaron, when you get a chance, please.
Okay. When you look at, here we go, right here. Look at this. Let me see if I can do this. It's taking too long for me.
It's coming. There you go.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So, see at the bottom here, it says rate of shootings remains steady. So from January to the end of the year, for about 5 or 6 years, the average average number of people that was killed by police, whether white or black, averages to be about 1,000. Now you can see on this chart that we're on pace to hit that 1,000 by the end of the year, because it's the middle of the year and we're already at 488 people who have been killed by the police. So let's make that a little come home a little bit to black people. Let's go up to this chart here. Most of us are young black men, and you see those orange bars, they kill off the age where we're the most strong, we're the most virile, you know, we have the most testosterone coming through our veins, which is ages 20 through 40.
Yep.
You know, that's the age where the most black men are killed by the police, and disproportionately unarmed. Now, this chart right here says it all to me. Now, it's true that the police kill more white people than Black people. But it's important to note that there's more of them in the United States than us. So if when they kills, look at this bar that says 1,528 total Black people killed. That's for every million of us, there's 37 killed. And we're only 42 million people in this country. So that's why that bar is higher, because it's 2.5 times anybody else. So then you get to Hispanic, they're only 39 million. For every million of people here, there's 27 Hispanics killed unarmed by the police. Now look at the white bar. It's more white people killed. It's almost roughly 3,000 white people killed, but they make up 197 million people in this country. So proportionally speaking, we are killed a lot more often and by the police, and we can see that by the rash of protests, but that is crazy to only be what, 13% of the population, but 40% of us are getting killed. And that's more than any other race, Hispanic, white, or when they couldn't tell the race. So I wanted to throw those statistics in and let you guys know that, you know, the only reason, you know, a lot of people will come back and say, well, white people are killed more than Black people. But if you look at the rate that we're killed, it's 2.5 times. And then if you want to add on top of that, we are unarmed. And we have shown you that we're unarmed.
But we know what we're doing when white people come at us with those stats. We know what they're doing.
Yes, they're spinning it. And we had a couple of congressmen that's trying to do that. But also we're going to continue the conversation, but I want everybody to know to stay tuned after the Man Show. I produced a film paying tribute to the people who were killed over the last 10 years. So I just want you guys to know that. But yeah, this information is crucial. And I think this information really points to how we should act when we are stopped by the police. Now, James, I wanted to get into this. We were getting to defense. What can we do to calm these people down? You told us a couple of things the other night of things that you do.
Okay.
When you get when you getting stopped by the police, you roll down every window in your car.
I roll down every window of my car, just like Mr. Williams pointed out. I also turn on my lights on the inside.
Dome light.
My dome lights. I turn them all on. My windows are already rolled down when he gets to me. There's no music playing when he gets to me. Should we have to do all of that? I don't know, but
No.
but
we want to come home.
This is the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
Sucks.
An officer does not have to ask me to roll down my window when he gets to my car because it's already down.
Now tell us why you roll down all your windows.
I roll down all my windows to give them a clear, I'm saying this, and you know, it's the reality of it. I want to ease the situation as much as I can. I want to comfort them as much as I can. It's just the reality of it. It's the world we live in.
That sucks. You know, that's messed up. You got to comfort them because they making you feel uncomfortable.
I dealt with a situation, man, when I was a kid. When I was younger, I was in my uncle's car, got pulled over. His headlight went out while I was driving. Now I seen the officer come up and I seen him make the U-turn. I'd have told my friend, I said, I'm finna get pulled over. I don't know why. Because they deliberately turned around. So I parked the car, roll the window down, license, registration. And that's what I brought up, the part about they either they hate or they in their mood. This wasn't fear. This was cockiness and pure hatred. Step out the car. So I'm young, don't know. I'm like, why? I don't have no reason to step out the car. So he reached in because my window was down, unbuckled my seat belt, opened the door, pulled me out. I said, okay, no problem. force my hands down on the hot hood. You know that hood be hot. Goes through the car. Now my uncle and my cousin is on the phone. He don't never ever smoke weed a day in his life. Never. They found a old cigar in there, and when he touched it, it crumbled. Oh, you got marijuana? I said, yep. No, you ain't in narcotics. They don't even look like marijuana. I'm young, stupid. So, long story short, he grabs me, put me in chokehold, all this other stuff. It was another police officer because I had just really got angry, and this dude literally took off his badge, his gun belt, and everything. And his partner grabbed him. But when he tried to grab him, I punched him and knocked him out. Another police officer came and said, Damon, what you doing? What you doing? By this time, his partner was like, nope, he gonna have to fight this in court. Now, come to find out, my grandmother took me to court, and this officer had like a list of police misconduct towards citizens and everything.
Mhm.
So, long story short, he the one got in trouble because his search was illegal. He yanked me out the car and the search was illegal. I didn't give him consent to search the car. So in this day and now, they're not doing that. They'll shoot you. You ain't even got to say nothing. They will shoot you. I'm trying to figure out, because I got sons, all of them 6 feet and taller, and they all got this, young rap look where they just got the hair all over their head. They look like they can be stereotyped as young thugs.
Mhm.
And the idea that they already got pulled over, they already got in trouble with the police, and they went to the point, I'm sick of the police, did that. I'm trying to tell them, you need to calm down. You need to stop. Well, Dad, what happened when I get yanked out the car and I am calm? I can't answer that question.
Mhm.
Because I know the feeling, and two, it's way worse in 2021 than it was in 1993.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out what can I say to my kids so I can see my kids come home.
Mhm.
Because a lot of these people are not, Philando Castillo ain't going home. And like you said, James, that man followed the letter of the law.
Mhm.
And he was murdered. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So what do I tell my young sons, 22, 21, 19 going on 20? What do I tell them when their experience is, well, when I followed the law, this is what happened to me? I know you ain't got no answer. I'm just saying.
I got something on
I
that.
know you don't have no answer, and I ain't trying to put you on the spot. I'm
Yeah,
just saying this is a question I ask myself, what can I do? Because it's put out there that you have people that's following the law, they still get shot. And not only do they get shot, there is no justice for that family. They have not done anything wrong and no justice come to them. So now you see why these young cats is not playing with the police. They ain't taking, it's either them or me. I already know how, because that's how my son's talking. Either they're gonna take me out or I'm taking them out. If that's how a lot of the kids, 20, 21, that's how they think now. Because what they've seen, even if you follow the law, there's a good chance either you get locked up or you getting shot and killed.
Yeah, but the idea is let's just try to get it so we share with our young guys how to get home.
Okay.
Because
Well,
let's
I'm gonna
look
tell
at
you right now.
Hold on, let's look at the Central Park 5. You remember
Right.
these cops were just trying to find black guys who was accused of raping this white jogger girl. And Donald Trump put a full-page ad in the New York Times saying hang them and all of that. And these were little boys who they coerced into confession because they were so scared they didn't know what to do. So I understand your point, Damon, but the point is these 5 boys didn't have anybody to say, don't say anything. They didn't know their rights. So the conversation that we want to have with the young guys is, this is what you do. You can refuse to give any information, especially if they want to haul you down to the station. You don't have to say a word. They can ask you anything you want. You don't have to say anything. And when you can go home because you haven't said anything. So they need to know that. And particularly our young guys, because they tend to be hotheads, and justifiably so, because, you know, we've seen the scores of Black men that have been killed by the police for nothing. So what we want to do is educate them on how to get home, how to get out of this. You may have to take a hit on your ego.
Absolutely.
You know, a cop may say something like, all right, boy, don't get out of here. You know, you may have to take that hint, but your heart is pumping when you get home. That's the goal. That's, you know, we can be big and bad and we can say to the cops what we want to say, but the goal is to come home.
You know what this sound like, don't you?
Why don't you tell us?
And say it the way you want to say it.
It sound like the 1960s.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Well, ain't nothing can change. Let me say this real fast, because first of all, we're dealing with a system. I'm talking about a law enforcement system that has prejudice at its root, at its DNA. You know, we know how it was first formed back in, you know, when it was first formed. And so pushing forward to today, it's part of the emasculation of men, particularly Black men. It wants to castrate us. And you talking about how it feels to be unjustly victimized. Most people don't know or feel what we feel when we are unjustly pulled over, or we have to, you know, prove our innocence without any sense of guilt. People don't know how that feels. That rips your heart out as a man. You're not a man. You don't feel like a man if you being victimized in that type of way. But at the end of the day, I'm like you, James, we want our boys to come home. But my point is that training starts at home. If you don't have a mother and a father at home, which is teaching and training you what to say and how to behave and how to respect your elders and things like how to respect authority, there's a lot of principles that are broken down in the home. This is not a message that you can just slap on Facebook and just think that it's going to fix anything, because this happens at home. It's going to take some training. It's going to take some understanding. And then, as you said, it's going to take us taking some hits on some things. But this is what we have to do as a people, and not try to rely upon a system to fix it. This is something that's got to be fixed at home. And unfortunately, broken homes, dysfunctional homes, whereby it is what it is nowadays.
Right.
Well, then, so what you're saying is that ultimately, our communities need to be policed by us. Ultimately, that's what you're saying. And how do we get there? Well, yeah, first we need solid homes so that we get the men and the women that's capable of doing the job here at home, right? But you know, I just keep thinking to myself, like, all the things that we have to do just to live is just ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I get in my car, I swear, and I'm telling y'all the truth. I'm telling my mom and shit call me like, hey, I need you to run me over here, this and that and the other. I'm like, well, where is that at? Oh, well, that's over here on such and such. I say, well, that's in Livonia. I ain't going over there. You know what I'm saying? And then, or it's, well, you know, I'm gonna have to take the baby if we leave. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to do that. Well, she can ride with us. No, she can't ride with us because you don't understand what it is that I have to worry about when I leave the house. So I leave the house and I got my kids in the car and something happened. Now they got to see me die or something crazy like that. You know what I'm saying? So like you're saying, Mr. Hall, nobody really understands what it's about and how we feel about it. The decisions that I make every day are solely to stay alive, which sucks because it's hard enough out here as it is. You know, you can't do simple shit. You can't just go to a park and have a barbecue. You can't have your child selling water so that she can take a trip. You can't be in the store without being accused of something or chased down by something.
You can survive the moment and teach and train those that are around you so that ultimately, at least you influence your relationships so that it can stop there, and hopefully for those, it can get better. You can't fix the whole world, you fix them one at a time, you know, but you want to survive. And, I feel,
again, you know, I hear what you're saying, but at this point where we at in the world and the time, I'll just say in the times that we in right now, it ain't no getting out of it. It's supposed to get worse. Revelation tells us it's supposed to get worse.
Right.
You know, and
but you survive.
Well, yes, but okay, let me say this and then I'll shut up.
No, you ain't.
The question, yes, I will. Okay. So we trying to tell our young fellas how to deal with these situations, right?
Right.
They already know. They know you sit there and don't do nothing. They know that you put your hands on the steering wheel. They know that you give them the stuff. They know that you say yes, officer, no, officer, that you be respectful. They know all these things.
Right.
The point is that these things don't matter to the police
all of them
officer.
aren't doing that though.
Huh?
All of them aren't doing that though.
I won't say all of them are doing it. I'm saying they know how to act. But to the ego thing, they 20, they 30, they get disrespected for no reason, right? The tone is off or not what it should be, and then they attitude change. Understandably so. So what?
But does not trump understanding. You can know what to do, but under the heat of the situation, you might not necessarily do what you know to do. And we're talking about some very tense situations here.
Yeah.
So I disagree. All of our boys don't know what to do because they have not grown up. We've grown up in dysfunctional families. We've grown up in different ways. We just don't know what to do. I might freeze under a certain pressure. I don't know, you know, and you don't know what's in you until you squeeze with the pressure.
Yeah, because in my mind, I feel like, okay, I ain't answering no questions. I'm gonna crack my window. I'm gonna put my stuff out. Go ahead, get that. And I got nothing else to say to you. Write the ticket. Come on back. Give it to me. Let me leave. I don't want to talk. I just leave me alone. Just leave me alone.
I think that both of you guys are right. The problem is you can teach them because my boys knew what to do. They knew because I told them from my experience what to do and what happened to me. So don't do what I did, do what I'm telling you to do so you can come home. The problem is what Art is saying. Even if you do it, and I'm not saying all cops are doing what these officers are doing, because I do agree with James. Even if you obey, depending on the officer that you get, it gets you nowhere still.
Right.
That's the problem. So you can be taught and know the protocol and still follow the protocol and still get locked up for something you didn't do, be dependent on the officer you run across and what they feel like.
Right.
And we have to figure out a way to make them understand you gotta keep what we doing because we want you home. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Clint and Art, to their argument, they both correct because all boys don't know, but the ones that do know, they do run across the officer that puts them in a situation and they come home crying like, next time I'm going out like this because I forget everything you said, Dad, and I still got this. I still got thrown on the car on my head. So that's the problem. The problem is it's got to be consistency, not only on the boys, but the officers.
We're not gonna get that.
And I think that's the problem. That's right. That's the problem. So we'll be talking about this. The only thing we can do, really, honestly, is continue to teach the young fellas that we're in contact with, hopefully the officers that now all this stuff is coming out because everybody got one of these. You know what I'm saying? So now all that's coming out, maybe they'll go and start telling these officers, okay, now you putting our department in trouble. I'm gonna start I'm not saying they'll do it. I'm just saying it's got to be some consistency on both ends. That's what I'm looking at from what I'm hearing.
Bikes. That's all. We're gonna start riding bikes, and then they're gonna figure out a way to pull us over on the bike and say, "Oh, your reflector ain't reflecting the sun correctly." Okay, so now give me your bike registration and your bike license. Oh, you ain't got no bike license. Well, you know it's a new law, and they be lying.
Gotta have a bike license
New
anyway.
law, and then they'll take you down there with your bike, impound your bike. Your bike gonna be $300 to get your bike out of impound
Per day.
Per day. Don't forget, you gotta have a helmet.
And you gotta have a helmet. Oh, it ain't the helmet I think you should be wearing. You going to jail.
And I just say, I guess my whole bottom line is, don't give them a reason.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
To excite the situation. Now, Art said a few minutes ago, it's like we're in the 1960s. And let me tell you something, you're not wrong. Because now that thankfully, well, no thanks to Trump, there are a lot of cops out there with 1960 mentality now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Like,
Where did 1960 mentality come from?
Well, we know they just the Klan anyway.
it was always in there.
Right.
Right.
It was always in there.
It never left. It was dormant.
The police department was first formed back in the 1800s to catch runaway slaves.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's at the DNA of the police department that we see today. So when you, to me, you know, whether you get killed, hung, or whatever, I don't care what, however you died, you're dead. But I'm gonna go back to my point, because I would say, like, I want to ask you, Aaron, how many of these young boys are watching this podcast or whatever this is?
There are
boys. Where's our platform where we give them this information?
This is a platform, because listen, there's a whole lot of women who watch this show who have sons.
Okay. Yes,
I can count about 15 women who have 1 to 3 sons that are watching this, who are waiting on this to be uploaded so they can show it to them.
So good. That's what I'm trying to get to. So give me 1 or 2, 3 points, somebody, James or Damon, on what you can tell these mothers or tell these young guys what to do, how to de-escalate the situation, how to maybe water down your testosterone so that you might need to take a hit. Your pride might be at jeopardy. You might take a hit. You know, we got to tell them these type of things so that when it happens, they'll have some resolve to operate correctly on this thing. That's all I'm trying to get at.
Okay, so let James answer that then. What do you tell young boys when they stop by the police? Boom.
All right, well, for the most part, like you just said, water down your testosterone. At that point, it's not about you asserting yourself. It's not about you proving what you think you did or didn't do. It's just not about that at that point. At that point, it's letting this thing happen so you can go on about your day. And that means doing what you can do to de-escalate the situation. It's a shame. It's actually their jobs to de-escalate, but they're not doing it.
Right.
What else? What else do we tell them?
All right. We tell them to stay calm. We tell them the things like I said, roll down your windows.
Cut the dome
lights on. Keep your hands visible. Now, I'm not going to sit there with my hands on the steering wheel, but they're going to be visible. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make any furtive movements.
How much questioning should they answer?
Okay, we all have our different opinion on that.
Yeah.
Art say 0. Most people say 0.
Not a damn thing.
Me personally, I'm going to answer about 3 questions. All right. I'm going to give them that much. Now, I have a script in my mind that I say after a certain point. And that script goes something like, actually, you've already asked me that. This is kind of starting to sound like an interrogation, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable right now. Now, that's my script. 3 questions. It normally goes until you repeat a question. All right. And that's when I flip it. That's my point right there. You actually,
so you got listening very intently to the officer as he's talking so that you can know how he's trying to trip you up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Or it can just simply be, wow, that's that's like the fourth or fifth question you asked me. I'm starting to feel a bit uncomfortable.
Mhm.
He can take it how he want to take it.
Right.
But his next question, I'ma say, you know what? I'm really uncomfortable at this point. Can we just get this over with?
Okay.
Get out the car.
So what do you
Well-
do in extreme cases like in the 5 Heartbeats when the cop stopped and made them sing, I got nothing but love for you, baby. What do you do in those, you a singing group? Sing something. And what is that? What do? You just have to comply?
Now, I'm not singing a song and I'm not dancing the dance and I'm not doing a jig. I mean, see, the thing is, like, there has to be, and I don't know what that happy median is.
Mhm.
There has to be a happy median between Art answering 0 questions and me answering 3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the way is a happy median, and it's up. I hate to say this because it's not up to us, but the truth is, it's up to us to de-escalate the situation to a point where you articulate to him, wow, no, I'm not getting defensive. I've actually answered quite a few of your questions already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Roll
Can I
down the
tell-
windows. Let's go back over them right quick. Roll down the
Let-
windows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Keep your hands visible.
Mhm.
Right.
Turn on your
Keep-
lights.
Turn on the dome light. Stay calm, no attitude. Keep your feelings in check. Right.
Mhm.
Listen
Yeah.
intently to the officer, what they're asking you, and when the questions become too intrusive, have a script ready.
Yes.
I'm feeling uncomfortable.
And I'm
I
feeling
actually like that actually.
For the record, Art, his script, not your script.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just playing.
I saw you coming a mile away, Art. I saw you coming down.
and the
I'm
only
fucking
thing I
around.
would add to that, is have your paperwork ready.
Yeah.
Do that
Yes,
anyway.
let me throw some in the mix, James. What if I'm sitting in the car, I'm a young guy, and I got a joint, or I got a beer, or I got something, or I know I got some unpaid tickets, so I know I got some unpaid alimony, and I know that they can run my numbers and find out something about me that ain't really connected to the stop, but they can get me anyway.
Can I say something, James, before you answer that? Now, I drove some years without a license, before I got myself together. And, we live out here in Redford, and I was working out in Livonia and whatever. It's how I came off at the officer. Didn't have a driver's license, have insurance, and got pulled over for speeding.
Damn.
So when he approached me, is always no sir and yes sir. So all right, Mr. Williams, be right back. You know your license plate? Yes, sir, I do know. Where you come from? Work. Okay. Be careful next time. I've been let go a lot back then. I'm legal
too.
now. I'm legal now. Well, my dad always taught me, I'm 56 now, and when I was 16, when they pull you over, this was back in 83, 82, it's no sir and yes sir. And that takes that edge off sometimes.
It does.
It
But it
does.
sets a precedent, like, okay, this kid's got some somewhat manners, at least he's showing me something,
Mhm.
you know?
The other thing I'd say is don't volunteer any information.
Yes.
I don't volunteer.
I know about that one too.
This
Yeah,
ain't
I
my
learned the hard
car.
way on that one too.
This ain't my car. This is my mama's boyfriend car.
Mm,
Yeah, he just got out.
I've done that one myself. I don't volunteer nothing. I don't need to volunteer.
Right.
What happens to you when whose car is this?
That's the answer to what I was alluding to, right? Don't volunteer any information, even though you might think of it in your head.
nope. 'Cause
Well, look.
if you got, I didn't mean to cut you off, Aaron.
Go ahead. Make your point.
If you got something illegal in your car, you got weed or something in your car, you volunteering that negates the need for a legal search.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't volunteer nothing.
Now we're at the end of the broadcast. I know it went fast. I want to thank my boy James Williams for taking time out and canceling his plans to be with us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
James, you was all right, man. You was all right.
Yeah,
I
man.
was worried about whether or not you had a foot on your neck, but you all right. You all right. You know,
appreciate
when you
it.
come in town, if you come in town, then you know we'll sit down and we'll kick it. We'll have a good conversation.
I appreciate it.
So, is that your phone?
Yeah, man, leave me alone, man.
No, it is.
Oh, it's like clockwork. Well, yeah. So James, we want to tell you that we appreciate you for coming, and as always, you know, this stuff is just not for us. It's to push out unto our community so everybody can know what to do in these situations. You know, so I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys for coming and making sure that this thing was pushed out correctly. So in the last few minutes, I really learned a lot. I haven't been pulled over by the police in a long time, which is good. But I got 2 sons, you know, and each one of them had run-ins with the police this year, and they handled it like champs. So I'm really grateful. So I'm hoping the people that listen to this will take all of the information and relay it to their sons and daughters, because Sandra Bland, she as you'll see in the video to follow this, she was compliant. Even though she was giving the boy lip, she was still compliant, and she is dead.
Now listen to me. Call the person who's coming to get you. Tell them they don't need to come. All right? Yes. Okay? So go ahead and call them. I'm going to take you to jail, and I'm going to hang down the phone.
Before that, she needs to go.
No.
But I can't call with if you don't open the door.
Why can't you?
Because I will not put my...
Use your phone. It's in your lap right there.
I just don't want to put my hands down. I'm really sorry. I'm just...
It's just really wrong.
No. I've just been wasting any videos and problems.
But you're not black. Remember, we only kill black people. Yeah, we only kill black people, right? All the videos you've seen, have you seen black people get killed? You have.
Moments before the shooting, you can see 47-year-old Charles Kinsey, his hands raised in the air. The video released overnight by his lawyer. Kinsey in the yellow shirt works at an assisted living facility. And the man at his feet is a 23-year-old with autism who ran away from the group home. Listen as Kinsey talks to police. At some point, one of the officers shoots Kinsey.
I'm unarmed. He's an autistic guy. He had a toy truck in his hand. When he hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in the air. I said, you know, I just got shot. And I'm standing there, so I was like, sir, why did you shoot me? And his words to me, he said, I don't know.
At this point, you're detained, understand?
Sir.
Don't reach for anything.
My keys.
Great.
My car.
May I?
Green house. No. What?
Listen, I'm trying to be
what?
cool. You're dancing in the street.
So
Technically.
what? I'm dancing in the street.
Yes. Hold on, woman. You're not free to go.
Hey. Get your hands off of me. Get up by myself. Let me go.
Let us help you.
Let me go.
Okay, you're under arrest right now. You're not going to be let go.
Why are you making a problem out of nothing?
The girl is waiting for her mom to pick her up. We are concealing her face and identity because she's a minor.
The vice principal and principal had been following her around.
According to Officer Christensen's field report, the child assaulted 2 school employees. But take a look at the lapel camera footage. This is what the officer claimed was the first assault, as the student walks past the assistant principal. And this is what the officer says was the second assault.
Can't push him out of the way.
The girl tries to move past the principal to open the door. Then, Officer Christensen loses his patience.
Okay, I've had enough of this. Take your bag off. Take your bag off. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're not gonna assault the principal.
The officer's lapel camera is knocked to the ground, but a school employee repositions it, capturing what happens next.
Put your arms behind your back. Put your arms behind your back. Ow! My arm. Get off me. Ow!
Yes.
My arm.
Yes, I actually had a sub just
Turn over! Turn over!
Yes.
Do not resist! Do not resist! Stop resisting!
Exactly.
Stop resisting!
Please stop.
Stop resisting!
Just stop, man.
Stop resisting!
The dashcam video from July of this year shows a Fort Worth police officer and a Tarrant County sheriff deputy responding to a robbery call. The two off-duty uniformed officers approached David Colley in an apartment parking lot. One pulls out a flashlight, the other his gun. There's no audio on the footage, but police say they told Colley to stop and show his hands. A few seconds later, the officer fired twice, leaving Colley crumpled on the ground.
For those who died while just jogging, like Ahmaud Arbery. For those who died trying to relax in their own home, like Botham Shine or Tatiana Jefferson.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
For those who died trying to ask for help after being in a car crash, like Jonathan Farrell or Renisha McBride. For those who died trying to reach for their cell phone, like Stephen Clark.
Show me your hands! Good!
For those who died trying to just leave a party and get to safety, like Jordan Edwards. For those who died trying to play loud music, like Jordan Davis. For those who died trying to sell CDs, like Alton Sterling. For those who died just trying to sleep, like Aiyana Jones. For those who died walking from the corner store, like Mike Brown, their blood speaks to us. For those who died while just trying to play cops and robbers, like Tamir Rice. And those who died trying to go to church, like the Charleston Nine. Those who died walking from home with Skittles, like Trayvon Martin. Those who died holding a hairbrush and leaving their own bachelor party, like Sean Bell. For those who died on New Year's, like Oscar Grant. For those who died just from getting a normal traffic ticket, like Sandra Bland.
Get out of the car now!
Why am I being apprehended? You trying to give me a ticket for your failure? Why am I being apprehended? You just opened my car door. You just opened my car door. So you threatening to drag me out of my own car?
Get out of the car!
And then you gonna stun me?
I will light you up. Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Wow.
Get out of the car!
Really, for a failure to signal. You doing all of this for a failure
to signal? Get over there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, let's take this to court. Let's do it.
Ahead.
For a failure to signal. Yep, for a failure to signal.
Get off the phone.
On my school.
Get off the phone.
I'm not on the phone. I have a right to record. This is my property. This is my property. Sir?
Put your phone down. Right?
For those who died lawfully carrying a weapon, like Philando Castile, their blood speaks to us. The names go on, like Corey Jones, John Crawford, Terrence Crutcher, Keith Scott, Clifford Glover, Claude Reese, Randy Evans, Yvonne Smallwood, Walter Scott, Eric Gardner, and Freddie Gray. Their blood speaks to us. Let us not make their death in vain. Instead, let us hear the message loud and clear. Let us unite together and let us correct oppression.